What is the most hated food in America, and what can that possibly teach us about financial planning? We'll get into that on this episode of Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart of Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can find them online, welcomehomefp.com. If you click the link right there in the podcast description, it'll take you right to their website. You can also give a call, schedule a time to speak with them as well, 804-635-3550. My name is Chris Swan, and I'm pleased to be joined with Ralph, Tim, and Scott. Gentlemen, glad to be with you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, it is your show after all. We're gonna have you on there. They don't want for me just talking and pontificating about food. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I actually wanted to start with this. A woman wrote to a financial advice column over there on Market Watch and said, "I'm at a loss. I'm a 68-year-old widow with $3,200 a month in Social Security and $2.6 million saved. My advisor has me in over 50% equities and tells me to stay the course, even though my portfolio was down by 20% last year. Is that wise?" She went on to explain, he started withdrawing from my 401k to a Roth to ease the overall tax burden. But this year it put my income over $200,000, which as a result led to a higher tax bill. What would be your advice to her?
Well, what she's outlined there, what the advisor is doing, pulling from the 401k is a Roth conversion, is what is being outlined. And we talk a lot about Roth conversions with clients, and a lot of people come into the office and they really, really like the idea of a Roth conversion. They like the idea of tax-free income in retirement. And then we get into the nuts and bolts of how to do it, and they don't like paying the taxes now.
Yeah.
So what I would say to this young lady that wrote in, it sounds like it wasn't explained to you very well. You weren't educated on what the process was going to be. Roth conversions can be a great thing. We do them all the time for people, but you've got to understand what is happening with that. Also, if you are holding a portfolio that's losing at a 20% clip, you need to get a second opinion.
Sure.
I don't know how else to put that, but I mean, you're writing into this column because you don't like what's happening, and it's your money. Just because you've had this advisor for a long time doesn't mean they're doing what's right for you. And it doesn't sound like there's a great distribution plan there, and it's creating some poor taxable situations.
And one thing I would say to her is I really couldn't give you any advice right now because I really don't know exactly what you're trying to do. What's your goal financially? Is it to provide a legacy for your kids that they won't have to pay taxes on, and you're willing to pay the taxes today? Then that's not a bad strategy. But however, I think the biggest thing is, or do you want to spend it and not give it to your kids? And those are goals that you have to come up with so the advisor or whoever you talk to understand what your final end result is. I just had a client that came in with a business the other day, and he's partners with his brother. And both of them are in their 70s this year, and they want to get rid of the business, or one of them does. So he wants to spend all his money. He doesn't want to give any of his money to his kids. But the other brother who I was speaking to, he doesn't want to hardly spend any of it. He wants to continue the business and pass it on down to his kids. So for me to sit here and tell you what you need to do without understanding what you're trying to do is kind of difficult. But the other thing I would say, even if you did do the Roth conversion, the better way of doing it, if you want to pass it on to your legacy, is do you have the liquid funds to pay the taxes so that the taxes wouldn't be taken out of what you convert? That is the best option for you if you have that option.
Yeah, a lot of people, they hear Roth conversions, that's kind of the sexy talk, right? Everybody wants to take pre-tax money and turn into after-tax money, but there's a lot of rules and regulations behind it. So every conversion is going to start a new 5-year window for you. I mean, you're a 68-year-old widow. Well, a widow right there just tells you that you don't have as much tax deductions as you were before.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taking a look at converting, you're 68 years old. Do you now realize that you're not going to be able to touch some of that money for a 5-year period every time? So we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. We never know how long we're going to live. Roth conversions aren't for everybody, but I do believe everybody will raise their hand and say, hey, I don't want to pay taxes on my money.
Sure.
Guess what? A Roth conversion doesn't work that way. So you're always going to pay your taxes one way or another. And it's all about the numbers, right? But it's not just, let me take part of my portfolio and stick it to a Roth, let me pay my taxes and move on. It's also about the rest of your income at the current time. So you got to strategically do it if you do a Roth conversion. Like Scott's talking about, we sit down and we talk to folks, and there are some cases where a Roth conversion is great and it'll work out the way that we want it to. But then there's a lot of times where it's not feasible. One, because somebody could be working, and they've got a lot more income if they're making $200,000 than if they were retired and they were only drawing on Social Security because they didn't need any more income. So there's a lot of things that come into play. And the other thing is if tax rates don't increase, are you really having a benefit out of that, right? So it's all about the numbers in everybody's individual situation.
There's a lot of nuance involved when it comes to this. And I do think if we polled 100 people would say, yes, I want to pay little in taxes or as little in taxes as possible. How do we go about doing that? It's going to depend from person to person. As we're recording right now, this is a tax season is upon us and people are focused on what they owe for the previous year. Well, what about the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years? And that is where tax planning in retirement really comes into play. Maybe the benefit of doing Roth conversions is there, knowing that you have to pay the taxes right now. That does come as a shock to a lot of people, as you guys pointed out there. But it's not as simple, it's not as cut and dry. What we give here on the show is generalized advice because we can't speak to everyone listening out there to figure out how it works for you. It's as simple as reaching out and giving a call. Let the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners run the numbers for you and figure out how to make it work for you. 804-635-3550 is the number, or go into the website, welcomehomefp.com. As I mentioned before, it's right there in the podcast description. You can just click on it, tap on it, whatever, and it'll take you right there, set up a time, because everyone's situation is going to be different. Everyone's opinions are different, which leads me into this topic. And I'm looking good to this because we're about to have a food fight. The most hated food in America, a recent poll by Instacart found out that it's anchovies. I don't think a lot of people disagree. Most of us shun the little fish as a pizza topping. Scott's shaking his head right there. But a lot of people don't realize anchovies are actually used as a flavoring in a lot of other foods like pasta sauces and Caesar dressing. So I'm going to tie this into retirement talk, like I mentioned earlier. Annuities. A lot of people say that they hate them, but they don't necessarily understand all of the things that they can do, how they can provide guaranteed income and things like that in retirement. So let's have this conversation and have a little fun with it. First of all, Scott, I want you to defend your fishy topping here.
Oh my goodness. When we were doing the show prep for this, and I saw this question, I got excited. So if my wife is listening, she's going to be upset with me because I'm going to call her out. But pepperoni, anchovies, and pineapple is an all-time classic pizza. Oh, it's so good. Now, once I started dating my wife, it just went to pepperoni and anchovies because pineapple's not allowed on pizza in Molly Earhart's mind, but that's ridiculous. That anchovies are getting a bad rap here, and I will defend them forever.
And all I'm going to say is before we record in our little podcast studio, please do not eat anchovies.
Oh,
that's my request.
Next time we're doing shows, I'm coming in here raw can of anchovies. Let's go.
Okay. Chris, you got something to look forward to, bud.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see, Chris, that those opinions are varied within this organization. Mm-hmm. And just like the general public,
one of those opinions is right.
When you told me of the toppings that got nixed there, anchovies is the one that I personally would have done. I'm not a fan myself, but I do see the merit because love a good Caesar salad, the pasta sauces that contain them. Sure, I'll try it again. I don't know if I'll do that combo of pepperoni, pineapple. Pepperoni and pineapple, I love. I know that's polarizing as well. I don't know if I could do all three of them together, but everyone has differing opinions, and it's the same sort of thing, bringing it back to the conversation here about annuities, because it's a four-letter word in some circles. A lot of people just don't like them outright for whatever reason, and they may not understand, but they may also be accurate in their assessment here. How do you broach that conversation when we talk about the benefits that an annuity could, being the operative word there, offer someone in retirement?
What are you trying to accomplish in your retirement? I would say that you want to make sure that you never run out of money in your retirement years, because how many people want to go back to work? Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest thing that people need to understand, most people, when they hear the word annuities, because they either listen to TV, somebody promoting that it's not a good thing, or they don't understand it, or they don't sell those. So those are things that you have to look at on the advertisements. But what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Is it that you want to make sure that when the market goes down, you don't lose any of your money, that it's still there 5 to 10 years from now, that you can use to have that income that you so desperately need to live on, even in retirement, because you still have bills, you still have the things that you want to do. But, why is it that people have such a difference of opinion? I would say, number one, it's never been understood. And that is the reason that people have such varied opinions. If you understand that there's an investment out there that can protect your investment so it would never go down, if there's and that you can go tax deferred, if it's in a non-qualified plan, so nobody wants to pay taxes on anything unless they had to,
Mm-hmm.
And you can have higher returns in, say, some fixed instruments out there, such as bank instruments, things like that, CDs, savings account, things like that. And I would think that any gain that you might have, you would never lose that. The other thing that people need to understand is you can structure these to do what you want it to do, not what the insurance company would do. It's what you want it to do. And there's going to be certain things that you have to deal with, but if you want to have a certain amount of income, you can do it that way and annuitize it, but wouldn't recommend that for most people, but in certain situations you could. But I want flexibility like Tim talks about in certain things. What do I need today? I don't want to lock everything into one certain investment vehicle because you don't know what's going to happen down the road.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that there's many types of annuities, right? A lot of people, where they get their information from, what are their credentials? Do they have the right credentials, licenses, that kind of thing to speak on those subjects? But they use the analogy of vehicles, right? So just like an annuity of vehicles, they're all different. So if you want to haul something up and down the highway, probably going to get a truck. But if you want to go from here in Richmond down to Miami on Interstate 95 as fast as possible, you're probably not going to use a truck. You're probably going to get a Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever you can afford, right? So Scott didn't drive his Lamborghini this morning, but there's a lot of differences and nuances with annuities. So it all depends on, like what Ralph's saying, is what you want to accomplish with your money. So if you're not getting this feedback that makes you hate annuities from the right sources, whether it's your neighbor, your brother-in-law, friend, they don't necessarily know the differences. They could be speaking about one type of annuity, but everybody says the word annuity and they go running.
The financial world is like a big pie, right? The different pieces. And in my opinion, almost every financial instrument out there has a place or is a piece of a pie. Anybody that says one of those financial instruments is no good or they hate them, they're doing it for a reason. Now, I'm not going to tell you an annuity is right for everybody. It's not. It's not. But by no means, I like pie. I'm kind of a fat kid in case you can't tell from this topic today. But I want to be able to eat every single piece of it if it's right for me.
Sure.
It's not right for everybody, but I don't want to take something away from someone. So I say all of that and joke about that to say annuities aren't right for everybody, but by no means should they be completely off the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is this. A lot of people get information maybe from the internet, and we all know that everything is true on the internet.
All true, of
Darn
course.
straight. Darn straight.
Or the golf course, yeah. So just understand, where is all this information coming from? Have you verified it? But more important than anything, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Unless you know that and can expound upon that to somebody that you're having an advisory situation with, it's kind of difficult to make recommendations to.
Yeah, and it's back to the original question about the best toppings on a pizza. Scott indulges in that nastiness, and that's not right for everybody, okay? It goes back to the annuity, right? Any type of annuity might not be for everybody. That's why it's very important to sit down with somebody who has your best interest at heart, which is a fiduciary,
Mm-hmm.
and we can walk through, what's right, what's wrong, how can you place things in a certain manner that no matter what, you're going to be able to live your golden years out.
And that's what it's all about, Tim. You mentioned the word there. You're a step ahead of me. Fiduciary, acting in the client's best interest. There are people out there, and I don't want to talk bad about them, but they say they operate in a fiduciary capacity, but at the same time, in the same breath, sometimes they're like, I hate annuities. I refuse to use annuities. Here's the thing. If you are ruling out one vehicle completely, and you're not even entertaining the possibility that it could work in the client's best interest, again, could being the operative word, I don't know if you can really say that you're acting in the client's best interest. Are they right for everybody out there? Absolutely not. Are they valuable for a lot of people out there? Yeah. Does it need to be the entirety of your retirement portfolio? No, certainly not. I know I'm speaking in a lot of vague terms here, but that is the truth of it. It is a cloudy space to see how it can work for you, if it works for you at all. Like a pizza, it is so complicated. You can ask everybody in the room, obviously, and then everybody in the office, everybody in the entire state, and you're going to get a lot of different answers as far as what the right topping is. And as this poll shows, 50% of them are going to say they hate anchovies. Sorry, Scott, that's just the case, the way it's going to be.
Ridiculous.
But
That's kind of a low number to me.
But you got to have an open mind, Chris, when you start making financial decisions.
100%.
Open mind is like a parachute. Unless it's open, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to tell people to not go on the internet and not talk to their friends about annuities, because that's impossible to do. They've probably already done it, quite frankly. But bring those concerns, those things you heard, bring them to the table, bring them to the conversation when you sit down and speak with the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. Let them provide that education, that they do so well here on the show, that they do in the offices and the events that they do, and educate you and inform you. And at the end of the day, if you decide, no, I still don't want an annuity, that is okay. But at least you have all the cards on the table, and you know the options when it comes to your retirement plan. And then from there, being able to build that customized retirement roadmap that's going to work best for you, just in the same way that, bringing it back to pizza, because I'm hungry at this point. Create that pie, that pizza that is ideal for you with whatever toppings it is that you desire. It all starts with that phone call, 804-635-3550. It's 804-635-3550. Or you can go to the website, which is welcomehomefp.com. If you open up the podcast description and click on the link there, it'll take you right to the website, welcomehomefp.com. Guys, I'm going to go order a pizza, but before we wrap up here, I want to thank the listeners out there for joining us here on Aspire to Retire. I want to thank you guys for taking the time. As we wrap up here, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, so we've talked about our events before, and of course, you bring up the website on every podcast. If you're interested in attending an event, we've got an events tab on our website. You can go see what's upcoming. And who knows, maybe we'll do a pizza pie making event. But
Pizza party, baby.
yeah, so it is important to have an open mind for retirement. And there might be things that we can introduce to you that you aren't aware of. So it's very important to sit down if you're getting close to retirement. Pick up the phone, give us a call, hit the website. We'd love to see you at an event. So, Chris, I'm with you. I think it's time to go get a thin crust ham and pineapple pizza.
With anchovies.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness, and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any residents of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.